Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Let's have a sobriety chat. Not had one of those in a while. Let's check in, see how we're doing. Apparently I got some comments asking to talk about sobriety because the people commenting were having a difficult time, a challenging time staying sober, and you and me both, mate. Not in the best, still sober, year and a half now, not in the best headspace with any of it, but I still think, you know, I do my videos where I'm like, sobriety's brilliant, I'm really happy that I'm sober, blah, blah, blah. And I think I do need to show the other side of the other end of the spectrum where it's like, feel like pure shit, just want cocaine back. People aren't going to take it seriously that I'm quite miserable about it at the moment, because I can't help but have a little bit of joke and laugh, but that's just how I deal with things. This whole video is going to be quite self-indulgent. It's just going to be me moaning about my problems, so if you're not up for that, then I'm just warning you in advance. It's all about me on this channel, apparently. Yeah, staying sober is quite, it's difficult. It is difficult at the moment. I am struggling quite a bit with it. I don't really know where to begin. I don't really know where to begin with it. It's always been a challenge. It is difficult to stay sober, but I think 5 or 6 months ago, or whenever the last time I did a video, and I was pretty happy with all of it. It's easier to stay sober when you're happier, but if you're going through a rough, miserable patch like I have been for the past few months, then it does get harder to see the point in staying sober. You really have to take it one day at a time, otherwise you overwhelm yourself. I overwhelmed myself, when was it? Sometime before we went in London, we went back into a tier 2 lockdown. But before that, I went for a meal and it was perfectly nice. I was having a good time. I was on top narcissistic form. And I think I looked over and there was a family, not a family, there was a group of people, 40s, 50s, like wives and husbands, 6 of them, drinking, obviously, restaurant, alcohol. I think I thought to myself, wow, I'm never going to have that again. And then it overwhelmed me and I got into a really bad mood and I got stuck in my own head. The people around me, they noticed what happened and none of them took it personally, which is, you know, they knew it wasn't about them in that moment. That suddenly, you know, soured my mood a bit. It was me in my own head. The addict side of me is the really selfish, really immature part that doesn't want the responsibility that I now have over my own life. Sometimes I even feel a little bit responsible for other people now, which is weird. But that part of me doesn't want that and tries to reject that. And we were walking back through town and I was very much just, I wasn't really talking to anyone. I was just in my own head being like, fuck these people off, go and fuck them off, go home, get drunk, maybe get a bag. Like, that's how quickly it escalates. It's never, because in my head when I was looking at these other people having a drink, it wasn't, oh, I'd really fancy a drink right now. It was, God, I wish I was smashed right now. I don't think I've ever thought, yes, I would like a singular drink. It's always, God, I wish I was just hammered, obliterated right now. And that's the problem. That's why I can't ever slip up. Because if I did slip up once, I know that after a week, I'd be back to, I mean, I've been on that merry-go-round. I've done that. I gave up drinking alcohol for almost 2 years. Once, when I was younger. And I started drinking again to deal with something I'll talk about another time. And very quickly it went from special occasions to once a month to once every 2 weeks to, oh, right, okay, right, we're doing this again. Really, really quickly. And I'd lose everything. But I feel like I can't think of it in those ways. Yeah, sure, the friendships that I have are thriving much better than they were, what, 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago. I can look after myself properly now. I've got a nice portrait of Keanu Reeves in a relationship, but I can't stay sober for the sake of those things, because those things can just go away. Maybe this goes tits up and work goes tits up and then I have to sell that Keanu portrait. Relationships, whether it's like romantic or platonic, they can end. So I feel, and this is my personal opinion, that if I put stock in, well, I have to stay sober for all these things around me, if they go, what have you got left anchoring you to sobriety? nothing. So you have to stay sober, I think, primarily for yourself. Obviously, I'm not a parent, so like, I get how like a marriage and kids would like factor highly, but I still think primarily you have to be doing it for yourself. I might be wrong there though, don't know, not a parent, not married. I don't think drugs are the main, but I say that. Like, it's not drugs that really, I think about, I'm just arguing with myself, I think about sobriety more than I think about anything else. I don't think it's really drugs that trigger me, because for those who have watched my previous videos, I used to be a raging cokehead, and I hate cocaine. I can't stand it. I know that if I got drunk though, I would probably end up doing it, procuring it somehow, trawling through my phone, being like, God, someone must know a dealer. I don't know any dealers anymore. Can I say that on YouTube? Who cares? But I don't really sit here and go, oh, love some cocaine right now. The first hour or 2 hours of coke are good, and then the rest of it is shit, and all you want to do is just like do more coke, trying to reclaim the feeling of the first 2 hours. Like, it's bollocks. But alcohol is difficult. I mean, it's legal for one thing, but it's also socially acceptable, and it's kind of expected in a lot of, not that we can be social at the moment, but it's expected in a lot of social scenarios. So I think the danger of alcohol is quite downplayed. I was watching, it's also everywhere. I was watching New Girl, and they're just getting drunk a lot and doing drinking games. I can't watch TV about there being mention of alcohol or people drinking. You see it all the time. Alcohol's way more on my mind. Also, it is an easy way. It's like a cheat code for happiness. You know, have a few drinks, get a good buzz on, you're happy, you're having fun. Music sounds good. Not that it doesn't sound good, you know what I mean? I'm starting to romanticize, yeah, remember that time that I got really drunk and it was really fun. It's like, okay, yeah, well, remember that time you got really drunk, you had a massive panic attack, or that you cried and upset a bunch of people, or you got into like arguments, and you know? I found myself even missing smoking weed, which I haven't really smoked properly for years. Used to quite a bit as a teenager, can't now because I'm sober. Though some people are sober and still smoke weed for medicinal purposes, whatever it means to you, that's fine. I'm not going to go around gatekeeping and dictating people's paths to recovery. Some people can do that and be fine, but I wouldn't, and also I would disassociate because of my disassociation, so I can't smoke weed anyway. But I found like I just watch random videos on YouTube of people like getting high, and that's like at 1 a.m. I'll sit here trying to live vicariously through people on YouTube. Like, God, that could have been me when I used to party. No, again, romanticizing and glorifying the past when actually the past was pretty miserable. But it's difficult to remind myself of that because I feel kind of miserable recently. But I'm not isolated in feeling that, because a lot of people across the world are miserable this year. People are actually drinking a lot more in lockdown as well. And also it's strange because every new day is the longest that I've been sober, like sober from everything. So it's new territory for me all the time. Things that I would have been okay with previously 6 months ago, I'm feeling different about now. Like, you know, before there was lockdowns and stuff, I would go to pubs and bars, not nightclubs, not interested in that, but pubs and bars were fine. But now I'm feeling a little bit more like, actually, I don't want to put myself in that situation where I'm just surrounded by alcohol and could get triggered easily into getting into a bad mood about my own shortcomings. And I've said before that I didn't need to use alcohol as a social lubricant, or drugs as a social lubricant, because I can just get on with people. I feel like that was true at the time, but now I feel different about that too. I feel like I wouldn't want to be around people who are drunk or on drugs. This is going to sound really mean, but when you're drunk, other people are quite interesting. I'm not even going to finish what I was saying because it's quite mean and judgmental, but I feel like my tolerance has really dropped significantly with this miserable mood I've been in for the past few months. But like anything, these feelings will pass eventually. I think there could be the context of it being 2020 and it's near the end of the year now, and there's a fatigue that a lot of, because I've been speaking to quite a few people, not just about sobriety, but about their mood swings and how their emotions are doing, etc. And a lot of my friends do feel quite miserable too. So I think it's the fatigue of COVID and everything that entails. So I'm not particularly worried, but I just keep staring off. I feel, because my viewfinder's there, I feel weird if I'm just like staring like this. But I'm not just sitting here complaining. I have tried to be proactive. When the feelings were quite bad over a month, almost a month and a half ago, whenever it was, I'm luckily now in the position, for the first time, where I can get therapy, like pay for therapy, luckily, and I feel very, very, very lucky to have that option. I've done counselling with the NHS before when my disassociation was really bad, but that was only for 6 weeks, whereas this is ongoing and it's private, so I'm paying for it myself. But I signed up for a therapist. I got a therapist who I see weekly, who I can talk to about these issues and existentialism and self-worth. So I am trying to be proactive rather than, God, I had a day where I've given up smoking recently too. I mean, I was kind of just smoking 1 or 2 cigarettes a month anyway, but when I was in a really, really bad mood, whenever it must have been over a month ago, like a month and a half, 2 months ago. I don't know. Time has ceased to have any fucking meaning around here. But I was in this really, really bad mood and I was like, oh, maybe I should just get whiskey and then get cocaine. So, but instead of that, I sat around, bought a pack of cigarettes, just smoking all day, listening to Elvis Presley's 68 comeback special, just sitting there like, oh yeah, just jealous as well. I should really write down in bullet points what I'm going to talk about for like these videos. I found myself, he died, he had a problem with prescription drugs and he died on the toilet. And I found myself sitting here like, oh God, I wish that I was just one of those people who could be on drugs but still get on with their life and do things. Like, you know how Russell Brand in his younger years used to be mad off his head, but he was still going out and working and stuff. I couldn't keep those going, oh, it's not fair. If only I was the type of druggie that could still do my job. It's like having these ridiculous, really like self-indulgent thoughts that day. And then I signed up for therapy and not snapped out of it. That general malaise that day, it did get better and it did pass. So I just had to have that moment. And since then, I haven't been smoking, so that could be why I'm in a bit of a shit mood as well. Really missing my 2 cigarettes a month. But I didn't want this to just be a video about me complaining. I spoke to my therapist the other day and told her, you know, the sobriety is getting harder to stick with. And we had a chat about that. And she suggested to me getting a sponsor. Now, I'm actually lucky in that I have a good friend he's much older. He does AA talks. He'd be fine with me saying this publicly, I'm pretty sure. He does AA talks and coaching and stuff, so I can talk to him, but I haven't been talking to him about these because I hate repetitive conversations. I hate feeling like I'm a broken record. I feel like I'm a bit of a burden if I ring him up every time. I'm like, oh no, I'm missing alcohol and drugs again. But then my therapist was like, well, actually the situation is always different each time. Okay, that one time you were at a wedding, blah, blah, blah. This time you're here, it is different each time, and also he probably wouldn't mind you burdening him with this. So I did reach out. I'm going to work on trying not to feel like I'm annoying someone with my boring addiction problem. Because he once told me that in these moments of, oh God, I just really wish I was drunk right now, what you're kind of seeking is human connection. And I have found that to be the case, that when I'd have phone calls with him, I'd feel better. We'd stay on the phone for about an hour, but I'd feel better and the moment would pass. So I do think there is something in that. So for the people that like commented saying that they're struggling right now, I don't know if going to meetings depends what tier lockdown you're in, but maybe look at getting some sort of NA or AA sponsor, but just having that connection with someone and being able to talk to them when you do have those moments of like, fuck it. Because what I find for my guy is that he can reframe the situation in a way that, so for example, I went to a wedding and I felt fine for most of the day, and then as the day wore on I started to be like, would it be the worst thing in the world if I had a whiskey? If I just had a whiskey, maybe a few whiskey, it very quickly turned into maybe a few. Would it be the worst thing in the world? I've done so well, blah blah blah. And so I messaged, like, you know, my mum and a few mates, and their advice, because they're not like versed in this stuff, wasn't getting through to me. In fact, it was making me more like, you know, I should do it anyway. As again, the selfish, immature part of me really kicks off. But then I rung my guy and he reframed it as, well, you've probably only realistically got about 2 hours left until people go to bed. So if you wanted to do this, you should have done this 7 hours ago, where you could have, like, you know, got really drunk and had more enjoyment. But as it stands, 2 hours left, you can last another 2 hours. It'll be pointless otherwise, won't it? People will go to bed soon. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? Actually, you're right. I lasted the 2 hours and I just went to bed sober. Like, he has a funny way of framing things to me in a way that gets through to me, and that works personally for me. Might not work for other people, but I'd suggest getting a sponsor and it'll pass. It does pass. It will get better. It's just things are a little bit fraught this year because of the added context of the pandemic. Just do your best, really. Gambate and all that. Could I have sounded any more English? Gambate and all that. Horrific. Anyway, that's all for this video. I don't know if people are going to enjoy it or not. It is literally just me moaning, being like, wow, poor me, I'm sober and I hate it. It's alright sometimes, I guess. Just, I'll be alright. Don't any of you worry about me. Just look after yourselves, people that are struggling. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.